when you give birth to a child, their soul is like tied to that land.
I feel like QT BIPOC leave Edmonton because due to the effects of racism and queerphobia and transphobia, people are seeking like mentorship because it's like not safe for people to like exist on their own in the city. And so people are seeking community and people are seeking mentorship, but people keep leaving. Like older queer and trans racialized people, they either like marry into like monogamous relationships and just kind of disappear from community, or they just leave to other cities.
I love Edmonton because it's my home and it's where I've found chosen family, and where when my family kicked me out, disowned me, it's Edmonton has filled that gap, you know. The chosen family, the friends I've made, the people who are there for me. So this is my home. But then I'm worried about the outcomes of the elections because I don't know how refugees who don't have status are gonna be. I don't know how myself will be if things really turn around. I'm really worried because I've seen things turning around after elections. I've seen a lot of dangerous and unfair things happen. I've seen hope, I've seen change happening, so I just hope things don't turn around because it might be inhuman. And well, we're still struggling with a lot of things, but then at least there is hope, you know, and there is people adjusting to change and they get to know, you know, us, we have. I hope our rights are not taken away. I hope what's in America is not what comes here. Other than that, Edmonton is my home and I am here to stay. There is something special about Edmonton, however cold it is, like outside now, but it's home. It's home. When I mean home, it's not just the word home. It's home. It's comforting, it's free, it's welcoming. Yeah.
I choose to stay in Edmonton because my community is here, and over the last several years, we definitely like developed roots, especially for queer and trans racialized communities, who often like have a hard time accessing resources and like community supports. We've like fought hard and like worked together to like build these roots in ways that like are sustainable, and so like leaving would kind of like rupture some of the like intentional spaces that we've created. I think that like to be sustainable, first we need to like build a solid foundation, and like we can't really do that if people are always like leaving. Like a lot of the time, like no one teaches us how to exist as queer people, and no one teaches us how to exist as like racialized queer and trans people, like especially. And so like I think without that mentorship, we're kind of like alone, and we're kind of trying to figure it out. Like I'm 26 and I end up being like someone who's like ancient or whatever in the community, and like I hold a lot of space for a lot of people and do a lot of like emotional labor and emotional support because like the people older than me have kind of like moved on and like moved away from community. So it's kind of like at like in my mid-20s, I'm somehow holding this whole community for folks who are like 4 years younger than me. Like they're in my age bracket, and yet it feels like this huge shift, this huge age gap, because everyone is craving that love. And especially for like racialized people, like due to the effects of colonization, like racialized people got like may have gotten like kicked out of their homes, and may have like difficult relationships with like biofam and their parents and whatever, and so like we end up filling a lot of those roles. Like I'm like a big bro for like a lot of people, and like someone 3 years older than me is like we've definitely built like a beautiful community of like queer and trans folks, like specifically queer and trans racialized folks, who may feel like they don't have a sense of belonging, or may feel like they don't access community, like other community spaces. So yeah, we created a really beautiful space where people can like tell stories and hear other people's narratives and like get their voices heard as well. And yeah, it's really beautiful. We're aiming for intergenerational spaces as well, where older folks can kind of like play like mentor roles for younger people, and like younger people can kind of grow up like having that sense of community and that sense of belonging. And so yeah, I am the co-founder and the program coordinator of a space called Shades of Color. Shades of Color is in its 4th year, which is super exciting. And in that space, like I do a lot of facilitation and like support work as well for like people who need to access like informal mental health supports and resources. So yeah, that's a big part of the community work that I do.
That my family, you know, were forcibly removed from our traditional homelands, and I think the trauma that comes with like being ripped away from your land, it's still, you pass it on to your kids. And like, I don't know if like my other brothers feel the same way, probably not. But like for me, I feel like, I don't know, my parents and my grandparents worked so fucking hard to bring me here, to bring my parents here, and to, you know, make sure that we're safe. When you give birth to a child, their soul is like tied to that land. Part of me feels obligated to stay here because this is where my family is, it's where my community is, and there is so much work that needs to be done here. And I have friends and family, like my sister's family, my cousins, who, you know, are impacted by the colonial violence that exists here. And like, why not use my privilege and the blessings that I have and the relationships that I've created to like push back against the colonial violence and stand up for something. So inextricably tied to being prairie, you know. Prairie queer, that's a thing. I always thought that was like a white thing, but like nah, let's take that. Let's just totally take that and appropriate that, you know, like being queer and trans and brown, disabled in the fucking prairies. Now that's an experience, right?
I stay because Edmonton is my home. Edmonton is community. It's family. I stay for the people that I love, who've cared for me, raised me, and showered me with more love than I could ever ask for. Edmonton means the city that it does to me because of its tenacity. Its strength to overcome the harshest of winters have bred the most resilient people. Now that the political climate's changing, these times call for us to hold on tighter, to love harder. This is our home. Let's stand for it and for each other.
Close your eyes,